The silent guardians, the azure rings of Virid Prime, cast soft light across the crystalline spires of the capital city, Harmonia. For centuries, the Viridar had built their civilization on principles of peace, scientific advancement, and artistic expression. Their translucent skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns as they communicated complex emotions alongside their spoken language. They were diplomats, philosophers, healers, but never warriors. Ambassador Torin stood on the observation deck of the last functional government tower, watching as another Makari warship descended through the clouds. The light patterns across his skin had dimmed to a mournful blue, barely visible in the emergency lighting. "They've breached the southern defensive grid," reported Science Director Elisa, her own patterns flickering with anxiety. "The evacuation ships from the Crystalline Valley. They didn't make it." Torin closed his four eyes briefly, allowing himself a moment of grief. How many? 2 million, mostly civilians. 2 million more Viridar, who would never again see the light of their 3 moons. 2 million who would either be processed in the Makari biomechanical factories or simply eliminated as inefficient resource expenditure. The Makari Collective didn't waste energy on prisoners unless they served a purpose. "The Galactic Council must act now," Torin whispered, his hands pressing against the transparent barrier. "They cannot continue to debate while genocide unfolds." Elisa made a sound like breaking crystal. "The Council has been considering appropriate responses for 17 cycles while our people die. They fear the Makari too much to intervene directly." She was right. The Viridar, with their advances in medicine, art, and sustainable technology, had contributed immeasurably to galactic civilization. But when the Makari Armada appeared at the edges of their system with demands for unconditional surrender, the Council had offered nothing but diplomatic platitudes and non-binding resolutions. "We have one option left," Torin said, turning from the viewport. "The forbidden option." Elisa's bioluminescence flashed in alarm. "You can't mean humans," Torin confirmed. "The isolation treaties mean nothing if our species is extinct," Torin interrupted. "I studied the historical archives. Before they withdrew from galactic affairs, humans fought the Scourge Horde to a standstill with technology centuries behind what we possess now." "Those are just stories," Elisa protested. "Exaggerations from conflicts centuries past. And even if true, the humans sealed their borders. They want nothing to do with the galaxy." "Then I will have to convince them otherwise," Torin said, his determination hardening like crystal. "Prepare my ship." The journey to the Sol system took 12 days. 12 days during which 3 more Viridar colonies fell to the Makari advance. Torin spent the time studying everything known about humans, a species that had shocked the galaxy with their ferocity during their brief appearance on the cosmic stage before retreating behind their borders nearly 2 centuries ago. When his small diplomatic vessel approached the outer beacons marking human territory, he expected immediate interception. Instead, his communications array lit up with a single message transmitted on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard. "Unidentified vessel, you are approaching restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose or be destroyed." No preamble, no diplomatic niceties, just the stark efficiency that characterized everything he'd learned about humans. Torin opened a channel. "This is Ambassador Torin of the Viridar Confederation, requesting emergency diplomatic contact with Earth authorities. My people face extinction. We need help." For long moments, there was nothing but silence. Then, "Transmit verification of diplomatic status and species identification. Maintain position." After sending the requested data, Torin waited, counting his heartbeats. 327 beats later, his ship shuddered as it was caught in a tractor beam. "Follow escort to Luna Station," came the terse instruction as 3 sleek black vessels materialized around his ship. Their design was unlike anything in his database. No visible weapons, yet somehow radiating lethal capability. Luna Station proved to be a massive installation orbiting Earth's moon, bristling with defense systems and docking bays. As Torin was escorted through its corridors by silent armored guards, he studied the humans he passed. They were remarkably diverse in appearance, but shared a certain intensity in their movements, an economy of motion that spoke of latent power. The council chamber he was finally led to contained only 5 humans, 3 women and 2 men seated at a semicircular table of some dark material. Ambassador, spoke a gray-haired woman at the center. I am Admiral Helena Zhao, Earth Defense Force. These are my colleagues from our governing council. We understand your people are at war. Not at war, Torin corrected, his voice breaking despite his diplomatic training. Being exterminated. The Makari Collective has attacked without provocation. They destroy our cities, harvest our people, strip our worlds of resources. The Galactic Council refuses to intervene. He activated a holographic projector that displayed the devastation of Virid Prime, the refugee ships being shot down, the processing facilities where his people were sorted like components in a manufacturing plant. We are peaceful, Torin continued. We have no significant military. In 3 months, the Makari have destroyed half our worlds. In another 3, the Viridar will exist only in galactic archives. Admiral Zhao's expression remained impassive, but her eyes narrowed fractionally. And you came to Earth, breaking isolation protocols established centuries ago. Because the stories of humans have persisted, Torin said. Your species fought when outmatched. You survived when logic said you should perish. You protected the weak even at cost to yourselves. He paused, gathering his courage. I come to beg for your help, knowing I have no right to ask it. A younger man with dark skin spoke next. The isolation protocols exist for a reason. Ambassador. The galaxy made it clear they considered humans too violent, too unpredictable. We were called barbaric for how we fought the scourge. Perhaps we were, Admiral Zhao acknowledged. But we also remember what it's like to face extinction. She turned to her colleagues. Council, your thoughts. What followed was the most direct and efficient deliberation Torin had ever witnessed. No posturing, no political maneuvering, just a clear-eyed assessment of facts and consequences. If we intervene, said an older man with lines etched deep in his face, we commit fully. There's no halfway with something like this. The Makari don't know our current capabilities, offered a woman with copper hair. We'd have the element of surprise, at least initially. This would end our isolation permanently, the 5th counselor noted. For better or worse. Admiral Zhao nodded at each point, then turned back to Torin. We need to know everything about the Makari, their numbers, technology, tactics, and we need to verify your information independently. Of course, Torin agreed, hope flickering for the first time in months. One last question, Ambassador, Zhao said, leaning forward. If we help your people, what do the Viridar offer in return? The directness startled Torin. In his culture, such transactional diplomacy would be considered vulgar, especially in a humanitarian crisis. But he recognized the human need for clarity. Knowledge, he answered honestly. The Viridar are the foremost scientists in the galaxy. Medical technology that can extend your lifespans, manufacturing processes beyond your current capabilities, energy production systems unlike anything you possess, and our eternal alliance. Zhao nodded slowly, then looked to her colleagues. One by one, they nodded. Ambassador Torin. The Admiral said, standing, Earth has been isolated for 200 years because the galaxy feared what we might do if provoked. Perhaps it's time they remembered why. 2 weeks later, the first human battle group emerged from jump space at the edge of the Astra system, home to the largest remaining Viridar colony. 6 Makari destroyers orbited the planet, methodically bombarding its surface defenses. On the bridge of the EDF Thunderchild, Admiral Zhao watched the tactical display with calculating eyes. They're using standard orbital bombardment patterns, observed Captain Reyes beside her. No variation, no adaptation. An empire that expands through overwhelming force rarely develops tactical flexibility, Zhao replied. They never needed it. She pressed the fleet-wide communication button. All ships, execute Operation Reckoning. No warnings, no quarter. Across the human fleet, targeting systems locked onto the Makari vessels, whose sensors had only just registered the newcomers. Unknown vessels. Came the Makari transmission, arrogant even in its confusion. This system is claimed by the Makari Collective. Depart immediately or be destroyed. Admiral Zhou's smile contained no warmth. Commence firing. The space between the fleets erupted with weapons technology unseen in the galaxy for centuries. Quantum phase torpedoes bypassed defensive systems entirely, detonating within the enemy ship's power cores. Gravimetric lances sliced through Makari shields as if they were tissue. In under 4 minutes, 5 Makari destroyers were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The 6th managed to transmit a distress signal before it too vanished in a blinding flash. On Astra below, the Veridar witnessed what they would later call the sky's wrath, the moment when darkness was banished by the light of Makari warships dying in orbit. Signal from the surface. Admiral, reported the communications officer. They're requesting identification. Tell them, Zhou said, her eyes still on the tactical display, that humanity has answered their call. Unleashing the storm. The Makari had never experienced defeat, not in the 2 centuries since their emergence from the galactic core, not as they methodically consumed one civilization after another, incorporating useful technologies and discarding the rest. Their expansion had been inevitable, mathematical, until they encountered humans. High Commander Vorak stood before the Supreme Collective, his proud posture diminished for the first time in his long career. The chamber's black metal floors reflected the red ambient light, making it appear as though they stood in a pool of blood. Appropriate, given the news he brought. The 6th Fleet has been lost, Eminences, all 48 vessels destroyed over the Veridar colony world of Astra. Leader Prime Zexril rose from his biomechanical throne, towering 3 meters tall, his armored exoskeleton clicking with agitation. Impossible. By what force? Humans, Eminence. The Leader Prime's compound eyes widened fractionally, the only indication of his shock. The isolated primitives. They dare interfere with our divine expansion. They have evolved, Eminence. Their technology now exceeds our projections. Their tactics defy conventional warfare parameters. On the massive view screen behind the throne, footage from the battle played in grim silence. Human vessels, sleek, dark shapes against the void, moved with precision that bordered on prescience, countering Makari maneuvers before they fully developed. Their weapons bypassed shields calibrated to stop any known energy signature. Most disturbing of all, they targeted command ships with unerring accuracy, decapitating the rigid Makari command structure within minutes. They do not fight as civilized beings should, Vorak continued. They strike without ritual challenge, without honor declarations. They target our command vessels first, our supply lines second. They send small craft on suicide runs to disable our larger ships. The Leader Prime's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense calculation. Numbers. I require exact numbers. We estimate they have deployed approximately 150 capital ships, Eminence. But Vorak hesitated. Speak. Intelligence suggests this is merely a fraction of their fleet. Intercepts indicate they call this a rapid response force, while their main battle groups are still mobilizing. For the first time in recorded Makari history, the Leader Prime's voice held an unfamiliar note. Uncertainty. How did we not know of this military buildup? They were primitive isolationists. They maintained their isolation through deception, Eminence. Our understanding of their capabilities was severely flawed. On the Veridar colony world of Nilaris, Major Sophia Chen led the ground assault against entrenched Makari positions. Unlike the space battles, Liberating occupied planets required boots on the ground, and humans excelled at this most primal form of warfare. Strike teams Alpha through Delta converge on processing center coordinates, Sophia ordered through her neural link. Echo and Foxtrot secure the refugee zones. Remember, minimal collateral damage. There are still Veridar civilians in those structures. Her tactical display showed the Makari defensive grid, predictable, orderly, and utterly vulnerable to human asymmetric warfare. The Makari had never developed countermeasures for an enemy that refused to fight according to their established patterns. Sophia's combat exosuit amplified her natural strength tenfold as she led Bravo team down the rubble-strewn avenue toward the central processing facility. The structure loomed ahead, a grotesque fusion of technology and organic material that served as the Makari command center for this sector. Hostiles approaching, Major reported her second-in-command, Lieutenant Park. Standard Makari patrol configuration. Through her enhanced vision, Sophia saw the patrol, 8 Makari soldiers moving in perfect formation, their biomechanical armor making them look more machine than living being. "Let them pass," she ordered. "We're not here for small fry." Once the patrol moved beyond sensor range, the human strike teams converged from multiple directions, using stealth technology that rendered them nearly invisible to Makari sensors. At the facility's perimeter, Sophia paused before a secondary entrance. Upload the virus package. 3 days later, the surviving members of the Makari Leadership Council signed an unconditional surrender aboard the Vindication. The terms were harsh but fair: immediate withdrawal from all occupied territories, reparations to the Veridar, and disarmament of the Makari military machine. In the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Confederation, Ambassador Torrens stood before representatives from 100 worlds. His skin glowed with vibrant patterns of pride and gratitude as he addressed the assembly. For centuries, this body has prided itself on diplomacy and peaceful coexistence. Yet when the Veridar faced extinction, your words proved empty. It was humanity, the species this confederation once condemned as too violent, too unpredictable, who answered our call. A murmur ran through the assembly as a delegation entered the chamber. Admiral Zhao led the human representatives, their presence in these halls breaking 2 centuries of isolation. "Today," Torren continued, "I formally propose that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and privileges thereof. The Veridar stand as sponsors." One by one, other species rose to second the motion. Species who had watched the humans fight. Species who had seen firsthand what happened when humanity's protective instincts were awakened. As the vote was tallied, unanimously in favor, Admiral Zhao stepped to the podium. 200 years ago, humanity withdrew from galactic affairs because we were told our nature made us unfit for civilization. Today, we return not because we have changed, but because the galaxy has. Sometimes peace must be defended. Sometimes the only answer to aggression is greater force, applied with precision and purpose. She looked across the assembly, her gaze steady. Humanity accepts membership in this confederation with one condition: never again will we stand by while innocent species face extinction. Never again will diplomatic niceties take precedence over lives. This is our promise and our warning. As the human delegation took their seats among the Confederation representatives, a new era in galactic politics began. The species that had once been feared for their warlike nature was now valued for the same trait, because when the innocent cried for help, humanity answered with firepower. And the galaxy was safer for it.